Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Invocation is going to be Pastor Paul taking over for us, pinch hitting for the day.
Let's be in prayer. Lord God, we thank you for your generous goodness that comes to us new every day, for the blessings of today, for the opportunities to serve in Rotary, for this meal. We ask that you keep us mindful of the four-way test and the goals and purposes of Rotary, that we may truly put service above self in all that we do, that our lives, our families, our communities, our nation, the world may benefit from the blessings that come only from you. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father. Everybody be seated. Quick announcements. We need to have a very short board meeting after the presentation today. So board members, if you can hang behind, we have a couple little things we need to vote on. So we need all, I think there's 8 of us here. So only one person can skip out, and that's not you, Christy. You're not skipping out. Not yet, you didn't. We do have a Paul Harris thing to hand out. Andy Ferguson's not here, but I'll go ahead and take it. I won't bore you with the whole story. We all know the Paul Harris story. We just did it last week. So I'll grab this over here. For those who haven't been here, we've been doling out some Paul Harris points accumulated by other members to get people up to 100% Paul Harris for the club. We did achieve that goal. We still have some certificates to hand out along with pins. And this pin and certificate goes to Ron Gutierrez, who's here today. So, sir, there's a pin for you.
Okay.
Let's right there.
Okay.
There's a speech. No, I'm just kidding. We don't have a whole lot for announcements this month. What I don't have are the cards we need to hand out, but February is always the month where we do random acts of kindness for this club. I will have those cards at the next meeting to hand out. So when you do a random act of kindness, hand out the Rotary Club card. But that just because you don't have the cards doesn't mean you can't do random acts of kindness anyway. So please take the opportunity to do that. And if you do a random act of kindness, make sure you let people know about the Rotary Club itself. And next week we'll have the cards. Anybody doesn't know, I bought a new house, I'm moving, and I'm very sore and tired. Things are just kind of so next week we'll have it. Anybody have any announcements from the floor?
Yes.
Oh, Susie's got an announcement. Susie, go ahead. Oh, wow.
The library is having, actually, the library, the main library is having a lot of stuff going on. We have we have an art display, and then we have the Walk of Fame displays there right now. We're also doing some special programs this month. Remembering Mayor Lametta Wayne is going to be on the 15th, Wednesday at 6 o'clock with her daughter. She's going to be doing a special program with us. And then Matt will be at the Lions Branch on the 22nd doing a special Underground Railroads and Routes history program for Clinton County. So I have a couple of flyers if you're interested. It's also on our Facebook page and our website.
Thank you, Sue. I promise I won't forget you next time. Anybody else have anything from the floor? If not, we'll turn this over to Mr. Veenstra for fellowship. Go. Ryan, go. All 6 applause. That's what you get. Oh, wait, Susie wants to say one more thing.
We're gonna have tomorrow at the DeWitt Public Library at What time?
6:30.
6:30 at the DeWitt Public Library, exploring a satellite with the DeWitt community for Rotary.
Harry are gonna be up there too.
And I'll be there, and the DeWitt director for that library will be there, and hopefully some more people that might be interested in the DeWitt satellite.
Okay. Good afternoon, Rotarians. Got a birthday that we had to celebrate yesterday. For those that didn't see Dennis's heartfelt Facebook Live. His birthday was yesterday. What was your inspiring quote at the end of your video? I didn't watch it.
You won't be able to say it again.
People have to go and look at it. Over 700 people have gone to look at the video that I posted on Facebook on my birthday. You'll have to go look at it.
What are you trying to follow the St. Giuseppe's guy getting the fake advertising on Facebook, Dennis, or what? That's a $5 fine. Maestro, can we sing? Should we sing happy birthday to him? Yeah. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dennis. Happy birthday to you.
Nebraska's bad.
If you can get up to 1,000 views by the end of the day, I'll donate $5 to Dennis. Did you hear that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. A couple Rotary anniversaries. Dan, how's it here? Online.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Dan, 12 years. Sue Watkins is here, 9 years. Congratulations. And Brian Kelly's here as well, 2 years. Congratulations, Brian. And Teresa Nielsen, 4 years. Is she online? Congratulations, Teresa. Guests. Ron, you have a guest today?
We do. Eric Schweitzer, our sports editor.
Welcome, Eric. Carrie, you want to introduce some of our corporate guests?
We have several participating today from Citizens First Bank for our corporate membership, Ari Leverance, Eddie Dunham, Heather Farwell.
Welcome. Andy, do you have the student guests from Clinton High?
Yeah, this is Anna and Sophia. They're seniors at Clinton High. They'll be with us for the month of February.
Wonderful, welcome. And then Joe, do you have our Prince of Peace friends?
You do. My far left is Bella Adams. And next to me is Shannon Canady.
Welcome. Any other guests that I've forgotten?
Yes, we have two more,
Yes, Francis,
Matt Parbs and Bill Mashevitz.
welcome. Well, since we're talking about the Duke Slater statue and scholarship, I thought it would be appropriate to have some Duke Slater trivia. So those that are on the committee are not, you can't answer the question, okay? $3 if it's wrong, $2 if it's right, and Norland, your table, Mr. Hawkeye. Duke was his nickname. It was also the name of the family dog. What was Duke's legal first name? George, John, Frederick, or William?
We say Frederick.
Frederick is correct. $2. Greg, your table. Where was Duke born? Chicago, Clinton, Kankakee, or Normal? Wrong. Normal. Julie, your table. Back when Duke played football at Clinton High, every player needed to provide their own shoes and helmet. Times must have been tough back then. Duke's family could not afford both, so he had only shoes. He played 3 seasons at Clinton High. How many state championships did Clinton High win that while he played football? 1, 2, 3, or 0?
Two.
Correct. He won in 1913 and 1914. Doug. Your table. Duke went on to play at the University of Iowa, where his senior year season in 1921, they would go undefeated and then claim a share of the 1921 national championship. Iowa would upset this team, which had not been defeated in 3 years. Who were they? Rutgers, Northwestern, Michigan, or Notre Dame?
Notre Dame.
Correct. Notre Dame, $2. Brig, your table. Before you were there, in 1972, the president of the University of Iowa proposed naming Iowa Stadium Kinnick Slater Stadium, but the university decided to name it after Kinnick alone and naming a residence hall in Duke's name. Later, the field at Kinnick Stadium would be Duke Slater Field. What year was that done? 2016, 2018, 2020, or 2021? Look at that. 2021. Birthday boy lover, your table. Duke would be elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and don't be looking at these answers on Wikipedia like you're probably doing. What year was he elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame? 71, 80, 80, or 95, or 2020?
We say 2020.
You're correct. Good job, $2. Thanks, friends.
Thanks, Ryan. That was great. Zipped right along. Okay, we're in the program and setting up the program for today. Come on up there. Thank you.
I think a lot of you are here just for this program, and I think that's great. Beginning of February, our first meeting of Black History Month, what is more appropriate than to have a program about the Duke Slater Statue Initiative? We've got several of the board members here who will be speaking about this and providing us information, and I'm pleased to let Ted determine who's the first speaker. And Ted, I'd like to remind, Brig wanted to talk to you after the meeting too, about the membership. Yeah, the membership thing. Okay, thank you.
Good.
Is this the?
Yes, that's the clicker.
Okay, that's for you, Billy. Yeah. All right. Okay, so about 2 years ago, well, actually more than that, we had always, the ball club had always had a former player as a bobblehead. And I literally ran out of players. I mean, I could have put a ball player in that played 11 games. And the person I'm talking about is Chris Taylor when the Dodgers won it. But I'm thinking to myself, okay, if I got to do a guy that won a World Series for 11 games, I'm scraping the, I mean, I may do it next year, trust me. But then I thought about it. I thought, maybe we recognize some of the, and this was like on the cusp of the hometown heroes and the whole movement there. And I thought, well, you know what person would signify the best of athletics and baseball? You can make the rounds of, locally, TJ Sycamore. I'm sure we go back in the history, but to cut it short, the sports figure was Duke. So what we've always done, the ball club has always done, I've always reached out to the people directly, the players. So I talked to Dave Stewart when we did his. I said, Stewie, we want to do a bobblehead. You okay with it? He loved it. Everybody loved it. Okay. Well, trying to track down Duke and his ancestors was like pulling teeth. Okay. But the good news is we knew a guy that wrote a lot of books about him, Neil Rosendahl, who unfortunately can't be with us today. He's at home with his kids in Grinnell. He works for the Department of Labor and he can work anywhere. So he decided to move out of Washington and move to Grinnell, Iowa, which I'm thankful, very thankful for. But there's a niece, Sandra Wilkins. And so when I reached out to them, they wholeheartedly said, yeah, great idea. Okay. So we put together this bobblehead, and part of the part of the, where's the camera on? On the computer. Oh, here it is. See it? Okay, good. Part of the deal was Neil had said at the time, he said, Ted, that's great, do a bobblehead, but I want you to do something a little bit more with it. And he showed me, and I have to cheat a little bit because he texted it to me. I thought I had it in my notes, but there were 6 things that Neil had wanted done with Duke. And he's kind of taken on his own crusade with Duke Slater, but he wanted physical recognition at Clinton High School, which this statue would represent. He wanted physical recognition of Duke at Kinnick Stadium, which they did the relief in between when we did the bobblehead, the relief on the side. I think it shows in a 2-dimension. I think, is that right? 2-dimension on the wall. And then he wrote to me, he said, the relief and the field naming are far beyond what he had hoped for. A placard display at Slater Hall, as aforementioned, the naming of the Kinnick, and then they did the residence hall. So they're working on that. He's pushing for a street name for Duke in Chicago. So far, no progress. I know, Bill, you're working together with the city and some other people with trying to get a name. And Gary, you're in the mix as well. And then Duke's induction in the Arizona Cardinals Ring of Honor with his election to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I had thought that happened. Neil apparently said it didn't, so that would be my fault. And then Duke's induction to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which Dennis Lauer so accurately, his table got us 2020. So I said to Neil, I said, well, what do you need? You know, and he said, well, I want you to spearhead this. If you're going to do it, that's part of the deal. So I'm like, oh boy, I can't do this by myself. So I made a few phone calls. I called Ryan Veenstra, I called Matt Parks, I called Bill Mishevitz, I called Francis, I called David Sivright, I called my board, I called everybody, Ron Gutierrez, Ari, Kathy Forrest. I said, okay, what do we do? So we all got together and we've been at it. And through a lot of hard work and some great efforts by our committee, we're, I don't know, close to halfway there, maybe somewhere. So without further ado, I want to recognize the group that have painstakingly listened to me babble on like once a month. And I mentioned some of them already. Francis, Bill Mishevitz, Gary DeLacy, Ron Gutierrez, Brian Kelly, Matt Parves, Kathy Forrest, Ari, Ryan, and then again, Neil. We've got some other ones who aren't here. Right? There's a lot of them. So maybe Neil's on cue here for watching it on Zoom. So it's been fun. I mean, I've been involved with a lot of different projects and that. But I'm telling you what, this is it. This is in my 40 years of doing this as a career. This is the cat's meow. This is some good stuff. So without further ado, Bill put together a slide presentation of his classes. Billy, can you come up and help out with us, please? So it's basically a pictorial on Duke, and Bill does it much better than I do. So I just wanted to give you an update on introduce the committee, and then also kind of give you the history about how this all came about. So, Bill.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Ted. About 2008 or 9, I'm golfing with Gary Lueders, our old AD, and I said, how come we don't have a Hall of Fame? I don't know. I know we should get a Hall of Fame. So he put the wheels into motion to get a Hall of Fame. And, you know, you put in the Mount Rushmore always first, right? So by 2013, we had done that. Well, right around, about 2009, as you know, some of you guys know, I started to become the old guy at the school, and nobody knew anything about what was going on. When the fire came in, it destroyed a lot of records. So one day I just happened to be at the high school on a June day, and there was a pile of stuff out there. And I go, what's this? And they go, we're going to toss this away. I go, no, you're not going to toss anything. This is all our sports records. So we squirreled that away. Gary Lueders went through, microfilmed a ton of it. I'm still squirreling through a lot of it too. And it came to find out that when I first got to Clinton High School, there was a picture of Kenny playing and Duke Slater in the hallway, and everybody knew that. There was a legend out there. And then as you kind of go through changes and administration changes, and then people leave, And then before you know it, you're the old guy and you're looking around, nobody knows anything. And so, I mean, that's what happens, right? There's a forgotten past. I mean, that's why we teach history, because we tend to repeat it all the time. So hopefully we won't do something like that. So a lot of people know this about Duke. I'm trying to figure out. All right, so, all right. So none of these are true. Okay, Duke wasn't even the first African-American to play at Clinton High School. He certainly wasn't the first one at the University of Iowa either. All right, and he wasn't the first one in the NFL, although he was a pioneer. He was certainly out there. Okay, but he wasn't born here. He's not buried here. Matt and I tried to track down where he used to live. I mean, none of that kind of stuff. It was almost like it was just washed out of our history about Duke. And this is the guy, Neil, that came up to me. We had a phone call at the high school, and Neil wants to talk to somebody about Duke Slater. And then everybody in the room did what you just did. They all turned their heads and looked at me, and I go, okay, I can do that. So we hung out for probably about an hour or two, and he goes, there's nothing here about Duke Slater. I go, right. I know. There's absolutely nothing. There's a lot of stuff that's out there that's not pioneered, but this book, he's, I think, in the process of getting more printed. It's an incredible book. Let's take a look at the context, because a lot of times when we talk about an event, we don't talk about context, about what was going on. And so we have to take a look at the historical context. Think about this. Duke Slater's family, some of them were enslaved at one point. Okay, back in the day. All right, Duke moved here to an area that was welcoming for a lot of African Americans at that time. Take a look at all the stuff that was going on in and around that time period. The Jim Crow laws, the movie theater, which is being torn down or in the process of, that was segregated. That was segregated all the way into I think the 1930s, maybe even the 1940s. And this is Clinton, Iowa. You know, you had institutional racism in terms of school, businesses, you know, all of that, you know, it was deeply embedded. You had the Spanish flu pandemic in 1918. Like, how many people died in town? I mean, they were dropping like flies. You ever read some of the stuff about that? It was crazy. During the Jazz Age or World War I, okay, Black migration to the north, escaping finally, you know, the railroads were, you know, there was that Plessy versus Ferguson case, you know, separate but equal. All right, that had just been established in the late 1890s. All right, then all of a sudden, professional sports started to come about. And remember, baseball used to be the sport, played during the day or the daytime, and college football was big. All right. Well, no wonder Notre Dame, they should have been undefeated for 3 years. They had all those guys that came back from the war who had been fighting in a war. Now they're just going to play against punk kids who just graduated from high school. Are you kidding me? Some of those guys had battle fatigue. Come on, give me a break, man. You know? And then, of course, you know, wow, look at that. Women got to vote. Wow. And the Civil War was about 50 to 60 years old. Think about that. If some of you know a Vietnam veteran, think about how long ago that was. So you could say that you knew somebody who had fought in the Vietnam War, right? Like at my generation, I knew someone who fought in World War I, right? I met someone whose grandfather fought in the Civil War. So go back to that time period, and what's Duke running into? At school, in society. All right. So there he is at the University of Iowa. I found this like little cartoon. I thought that was kind of cool about him. Oh boy. Okay. So these are some things I'm not going to. I can barely read from that. All right.
It's on your screen.
I know that. I know that. That's tiny little font. This is at least 3 inches bigger. Oh, I got one. You're killing me, Matt. You're killing me, dude. All right. The mythical state championships of 13 and 14. Why do I say mythical? Because there's no state association at that time. Hey, here's the one that you should have said, but Duke Slater ever all state? No, nobody was all state. All right. The two mythical state championships they played, you had to actually go undefeated at a time, and we celebrated the one we won outright. I'm trying to remember which one we tied. I think it was 1914. We tied with West Des Moines. Who was it? West Des Moines. West Des Moines, which had the Divine guy who they both played at Iowa together. 10,000 people there. Yeah, 10,000 people at a football game. Yeah, that Clinton played. All right. And there we go. There's a whole team up at Ringwood Park. Okay, crazy stuff. Look how gigantic those guys were. Oh, they weren't. Think of the diet back then of what these people were eating. This is a photograph from the yearbook. Right. He was in the C Club, meaning that he was a captain. He's right there. Everybody had like a little thing. He's right there with the pepper. You know, he actually was in a drama at one point too, and within the play there was some pretty ugly language that they used. All right, so here we go. Duke was a pretty big guy at that time, right? I think we got to take a look at the fact that when Duke Slater left Clinton, Iowa, he always kept Clinton, Iowa inside, all right, inside of his mind, right? So he goes on to Iowa, one of the greatest Hawkeyes of all time, honestly. Yeah, think about this. On the 100th anniversary team of Hawkeye football, we don't have one guy from Clinton. We had two guys from Clinton on the team, Kenny Payne and Duke Slater. That's amazing. Clinton, Iowa, all right? All right, you guys can read that. I'm not gonna insult you, but yeah, beating Notre Dame, you know, that, okay, if you go to just about 1 out of every 3 bars in Iowa City, and Brig will tell you this, okay, that there's always that photograph of Duke Slater without a helmet leading the offensive block for Divine to go into and score the touchdown. All right, here's another myth. Did Duke Slater play without a helmet because he didn't want to? He was given a helmet at Iowa, and a lot of times people loved it. He would wear the helmet, and then when he would stride out to the field, he would take it off and throw it, and everybody would go nuts. Okay. So, 1918, he really didn't play because it was during the war. Nobody did that. They stopped all that. Can you imagine doing that today? We're not going to have professional sports and college sports because there's a war going on. Yeah, think about how much money was put into this. That's the photograph, the iconic photograph. Right. And how did they have one photographer at that time, at that charge? I mean, not like today where everybody's taking a picture, right? Even guys, what was it? Was there some guy that went on the field and his phone fell out this year in the NFL? His phone fell out of his uniform. Are you kidding me? All right. He was a member of Kappa Alpha Psi, which is still a big African-American fraternity. And I think there's over 100 ex-Kappas in the NFL. So hopefully I'm going to reach out to them. I've got some kids working on a project to see who's that going to be, you know, so. Playing for the Rock Island Independents. All right. That was like an early NFL thing. They would have won the league, but they couldn't play. Duke was not allowed to play in the state of Missouri. All right. So anybody who's familiar with the Jack Trice story, right? That Jack Trice goes up to Minnesota. He gets injured in the game. The very next game, he's supposed to go down to Missouri, and the chancellor of the University of Missouri writes to the chancellor of Iowa State, you know, African Americans are not going to play, right? And the chancellor from Iowa State goes, "You're right, they're not going to play." and Jack Trice died like 2 days later. Right? So think about that. He was not allowed to play down in Missouri. They lose to the Missouri team. When they came up, they beat them, but because of that loss, they don't win the championship. All right. He completed his career with the Chicago Cardinals, who just, I think within the last year or two, retired his number. All right. And look at that. He was a teammate of Jim Thorpe. Okay. Or vice versa, however you want to do it. Now, let's kind of go through this. There was probably 5,000 people that were a teammate of Jim Thorpe because he needed to make money and he was all over the place trying to play sports. Okay. Now look at this. This is crazy. African Americans were banned from the NFL. All right. But when he was playing in the NFL, there was a Fritz Pollard, Duke Slater, Fritz Pollard, and there was another African American. I can't remember his name right now. But he got into coaching a little bit. He did a little bit of high school coaching, then he got wise and he got out of that pretty darn quick. And earned his law degree from Iowa. Do you know how hard that was for back there? I mean, do you know how many places didn't even allow African Americans to go to school, much less go to law school? And look up Lulu Johnson from Clinton, Iowa, and what she had to go through. Okay. Again, the Chicago Cardinal. He's a strapper, man. Look at that. He's a big guy for back then. Okay, so it gets into the field of law. He becomes.
It's on your screen, Bill.
I get that. I'm telling you, Matt's breaking the #1 rule and teaching this kind of stuff. That's okay.
It is your.
I'm just kind of going over here. Chicago during the 1940s. He's on the south side. Who do you think this guy's working with in the city? Remember, that's when they had the machine in the city, right? So you're not telling me that the machine is contacting him as a civil rights and African-American leader? Come on. Let's go behind that door over there and have a nice little talk. All right. You know that had to be going on. And he did his best to keep that going. There's in the Chicago Defender, the African-American newspaper at that time, there's photographs of him. I don't know. Did you insert that today?
It should be.
Okay. There's one where
You must not have gotten. Yeah.
there's one where he's photographed with Joe Louis and Jackie Robinson. So and Jesse Owens. Jesse Owens was in name only one of his pallbearers. Okay, for you guys who don't know, Jesse Owens was one of the greatest athletes of all time as well during this time period. Remember, African Americans are making their name in entertainment and sports at that time because where else could they make their name? Where else would they be allowed in society to shine? Okay, it wasn't going to be in the classroom. It wasn't going to be in the hospital. It wasn't going to be in the courtroom. Okay, you got to put this into the context of the times. Okay, put that into the context of the time. All right. Yeah, this was kind of a weird deal, you know. This was kind of a strange thing. Kinnick, you know, nothing against you Hawkeyes. I'm not a Hawkeye, but you know, it's what are you going to make the stadium Kinnick? Like, how are you going to do that? So all of a sudden, there's an oversight, even at his own university. This is the guy that was every year they asked him, "Hey, can you recruit African Americans to come play for the University of Iowa?" And he would be sending people there all the time. His first choice was not Iowa. His first choice was a small college, and he was talked into, "Hey, you can play football. We can get you into the school." So he opened the door for a lot of African Americans to go to school at Iowa and eventually play some sports too. Slater Hall. I can remember when I was doing basketball camps and we'd stayed at Slater Hall, and they had like one little case, and they had a football and a pair of shoes and a helmet, and it said something like Duke Slater named that, and they had like a little thing, and they said none of this stuff was Duke Slater's. Okay, Bill, did you know it's named after a Clinton guy? Yeah. There's a really good video of this on the making of this on YouTube, right? This bronze relief, this is that block against Notre Dame. Crazy how they played that game back then. Nobody threw that ball. Nobody could throw the ball back then because the ball was like a pumpkin, you know. So finally they go, oh man, maybe we should put this guy into the Hall of Fame. Oh yeah, maybe you should do that. I can remember in 2018 when I went down to Kansas City that the Football Hall of Fame exhibit was going around. And the first thing I walked into, there's his jersey. And he's not in the Hall of Fame, but his jersey was traveling around in the NFL exhibit. That didn't make any sense to me. So finally, they named the field after Duke Slater. And I think we have to take a look at Duke Slater more than just the athlete. I think we have to take a look at, you know, yeah, was he a local football hero? Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to try to be a mean person here, but I'm an outsider. I came here from Detroit, right? So one of the only books that I was reading about Clinton was the history of Clinton, written in 1976. Which is, you know, it was a centennial year and all that kind of stuff. But when you open up that book, there's like a little thing about Duke Slater in there. But there's this huge picture of a person who lived here, moved at the tender age of 3 months and never came back. There's tended to be some forgotten writings in that. And that's okay. That's what history does, right? That's why Matt and I got into this business, so we could dig up that kind of stuff. Does Duke need to be recognized here in town? Certainly, yes. Okay, we can recognize, there's a lot of people that probably could be recognized, but you talk about a person that did something for the high school. How many people here played high school sport? Raise your hand if you played a high school sport. Okay, now how many times did you leave to get on the bus home and there's a line of people lining up to tackle you afterwards to see how tough you were? Do you have any of that happen? Duke did. All right. How many of you had to get begged to go to a university? Right? How many of you had to be called almost on a daily basis, sometimes even by his classmates, names that are no longer discussed, right? And then do it over and over and over. Never lose his character. That's the thing. He's a man of character. That's where we all recognize it. We recognize who he was and what he was. All right. And that's not something we could say about a lot of people. So I want you to think about this, okay? Let's do something really cool for Clinton. Get that statue up, right? How many people are going to come by? And this is for the people under the age of 40. And you just go, take that photograph, right? Bring some people into town. Right? Maybe change the name of a street by the high school, Mr. DeLacy, right? Make something really cool and special, all right? Continue to make this town something bigger and better than we all knew it could be. Thank you. All right. You're right.
So on your table, there are forms for, we have a couple different sponsorship opportunities. So in addition to building the statue, we're hoping to establish a scholarship in Duke Slater's name. And our committee has set a fundraising goal of $175,000. And with the help of the a gaming grant, and with the help of the 3 banks in town, First Central, Brig, Kathy, and Citizens First, and Clinton National Bank, we're getting there. We're hoping to have an event, maybe an annual event, but a fundraising kickoff event in the future. So don't be surprised if one of our members of our committee reaches out to you folks for a contribution to the statue and scholarship fund. And the goal is to have the statue unveiled, is that the right word? Yeah, in the fall of 2024. And for those, and it's kind of difficult now that 8th Avenue South or maybe future Slater Way is kind of being closed for the high school project. But if you would have your back to the pool and look right across the street, there was a dumpy red house on the corner of 9th Street and 8th Avenue South. And this around Christmas time, right before Christmas break, the school district graciously tore that down, got the asbestos out. So that will be the location of the statue. And like I said, I think it's going to be a huge anchor and historical landmark for our community. So I hope you guys are all as passionate and excited as Bill displayed. Duke was a wonderful guy. And so we're excited. We hope that you take that form with you and think about it. Like I said, don't be alarmed. Myself and some of the members of the committee will be in touch for a contribution. So because we need to get this thing up. Anybody else on the committee want to share any thoughts?
Maddie?
Advance one slide. I think it will show the bronze statue.
Not wrong. There you go.
Yeah, it'll actually be on the other side of the screen.
Yeah. Gary, do you want to add something?
Sure, I can.
Okay.
So from an educator perspective, I always look at it as getting role models for our current students. And we do have an athletic hall of fame. We also started a hall of honor. Duke is actually in both of those. Obviously, the athletic due to his football prowess, but we did recognize him as well for his judicial thing. I think you couldn't have a better role model for our kids in terms of someone that had to overcome barriers and achieve at a high level. And that's why I'm really supportive of the project. I'm looking at it for our future students and being able to walk past that every day as a role model to say, this is a guy that went to Clinton High School and what a difference he made beyond Clinton High School. And that's certainly an idea I want to get in every one of my students' minds, like you can make a difference. And it's obviously long overdue and we're really excited about getting it. I'll be honest with you, we were hoping we could have did it the fall of this year. That's just the lag between when we ordered it and when we can actually get the statue is that long. So yeah, we were actually hopeful it was going to be this fall. And then when they said, oh, it's going to be 12 to 14 months down the road before we could get it. And we really feel like the unveiling needs to coincide with the beginning of football season. So that's the way we're going to time it. Yeah, that'll actually be right across the street. And we did take that house down. And so we'll get it landscaped nice with some park benches and things like that. And have it. We talked about actually having the statue face diagonally towards the football field is how we'd want to get it placed. So appreciate all the work. The committee's been working very hard on it. I'm just a very small piece of the puzzle, but I want to thank all those that have contributed for the students of our school.
Dangerous. All right. Is there any questions or comments?
Talk about the budget. I've heard some numbers have shifted and when we originally came to the CCDA and I know that there's some support there. Where are you in the private fundraising and the grant total?
Mr. Parks, come on.
Yeah.
That's why I have committees, because then they could answer.
So that was gonna be my pitch is what's great about the ask that we're doing now is the statue is funded. We have 100,000 that covers the cost. What really is the exciting part, and Veenstra we've talked on the phone about this. I mean, this is your chance to be part of history. We want to create that scholarship fund, which was not part of the CCDA ask. And we can build the statue, the pocket park, the base today. But we want to make that pocket park and the base grand. We just found the poem, Mashevitz and I, that for Slater's obituary that perfectly summarizes. So now that's another, 5,000 for a thing. But we really think this is going to become a huge draw. I was just in Iowa City at Prairie Lights. I was seeing if they had the book in stock. I was talking to the book people about the statue. They lit up. They're like, oh man, this is really cool. We know people are going to come visit. So we want to make your contributions basically enhance and grow this project into something else. And that scholarship is really what we're talking about. And Veenstra can talk a little bit about his vision for years to come, how to really make sure that Duke Slater's legacy through the scholarship and the statue is everlasting. Every year we want a kid to go out and do that. So that's about 2,500. So you need 4%, right, Dr. Kelly? Yep. So that's 50,000 there, and things like that. And so, yeah, for the CCDA part, the statue is there. I mean, if we had to do nothing else, we can get the statue up. The school district has stepped forward and did a lot of the demo and some other things. But yeah, that's where we are now. That's that extra 75,000 over that is really the scholarship and really enhancing that experience. And let's also be honest, security and lighting and some different things like that we want to add with your contributions.
Yeah.
So, yep.
On the scholarship, how many are you planning to give each year? How much money will it be? And what's the criteria for being selected?
So I'm gonna let Gary at any point rip me off the stage, but it is basically, the goal is 2,000 to 2,500 a year. And here he comes.
Stand back here with a couple flowers.
We need to get a committee together to actually determine the criteria of that. Obviously, it's going to be, there's been some talk, is it just a student that would go to the University of Iowa? Would it be tied to athletics or the law or both or one or the other? Those are things to be flushed out. Right now, we're talking about one a year, and that 2,000 to 2,500. It'll actually depend on how much we're able to fundraise. But we're feeling like anything less than 2,000, just given the cost of college really isn't a significant scholarship anymore. So we've kind of set that as a minimum. Yeah, obviously, if we got inundated with more money, I'm sure we would think about 2 scholarships a year. There has been a talk, one female, one male? Do you do something that involves social economic status or minorities? I mean, there's a number of things that we would have to flush out to get to the point who would qualify. Obviously, a Clinton High grad.
Would it be just for the 1 year, or would it be for the 4 years of college?
We would have to get a lot more money if it was going to be multi-year. Ideally, that would be great, because what happens for kids is they get a lot of scholarship money in year 1, and then it dries up. But we're talking 50,000. If you get a 4% interest, that just generates 2,000 a year. Well, if we're going to start doing that, we're going to have to generate a lot more than 50,000. So right now, our goal is to be able to provide that one time, once a year. We would need a little bit of a windfall to do more than that. Although I'll be honest, that's the way I really think it needs to go anymore. To be honest with you, is you need something renewable over 4 years. And if they do a certain GPA and they stay in that track, they get that money to renew for all 4 years. So if we happen to get a windfall, that would be something I would really push. I know my sister right now is retiring from a business, and she wants to do a science scholarship. And that's what I told her. I said, do it over 4 years. And I said, you need to do at least 2,500 a year. And that way, that actually does help those students get to the finish line.
Gary Dennis had a question.
Where in town did Duke grow up? Where's the house that he lived in?
So basically, it's 21st Place is where his father George lived, basically behind like Vitalis and whatnot. So he had a fairly long walk to the brewery, the church. And that's where we hope to do our big first kickoff, line some things up, reaching out to Kirk and Gary and different things, and do it in basically the shadow of where his dad George preached.
And then of course, he played football basically in Hawthorne Park, and where some houses sit now.
So that's not very far from where Terry Bradshaw's dad preached.
He was in Comanche, I thought. I thought Bradshaw's father.
No,
I thought
preached
Brad-
in Clinton, he lived in Command.
Okay.
Right, but his dad preached right in that same neighborhood.
You said something about a poem that was
Yeah.
found. Could Bill possibly read that poem? I've heard the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you got, I got it on my phone too, you go right in.
So Neil brought in the obituary. And I saw these words and I'm like, holy moly. I'm just hoping somebody remembers and says, "Ah, Bob was a nice guy." That was Bill, but we're gonna move on. So listen to this, okay? Tall as the corn from his native state, strong as the best in the Middle West. True to the word his father taught, loved by the team his struggles wrought. Proud of those he helped to fame, grateful to the sport that built his name. Modest son, a great university, reflecting credit, honor, and dignity. Hailed by the students with great affection, forever now a fond recollection. Humble is the greatness that is his, Slater of Iowa. James Peterson. I mean, how do you say it?
Right, and to be crass, for like 4,500, you could fund that poem on the base. And that's what we talk about. We are there, we can do this project with the past support, but to add that there for every kid to read, we don't have to come up with any words for Slater. The poem's already made, and it will speak for generations on who Duke was.
Well, I thought I was a marketing guru. This guy's got me big time. Oh, it's gonna be life size. It's gonna be 6'1", 215, and we're looking at about anywhere between a 3 to 4 foot base. So we had a lengthy discussion at our last committee meeting about not maybe necessarily making it a floor model. We just think he needs to be, without being sacrilegious, he needs to be lifted up and so people can see it and they can read. I mean, we want to make sure that his biography is listed on there, both his athletic and his academic things. So then we got to keep the sides open for Mr. Marketer over here for the sponsors and everybody else. So there's a couple more hands up. Dougie, go ahead.
Maybe I missed it, but is his family aware or are they?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sandra was here for Duke's academic. And actually, I had a nice visit with her and her husband and their grandson.
Yep.
And she gets every email. She's awesome.
She's the niece.
Her niece. I said, yeah, I'm sorry. I said, okay.
You never had any kids.
Duke had
No, Sandra's grandson.
Okay.
But
Duke never had any kids.
Duke never had any kids, but it was Sandra and they came up for the academic and it was Sandra and her husband and Sandra's and her husband's grandson. Anyway, okay. There was somebody else had a hand up. No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thanks to Bill and Maddie and Ryan and Gary. Whoever else. Yeah, there we go. So Francis, we kept you off the podium or we'd have been here for 4 hours. Good.
Thank you all very much for that great presentation. Every week, from our guest speaker, on behalf of them, we donated a book to the Clinton Public Library, the Children's Department, and this one is, there's only one you. So if we can get all of you folks who spoke today to sign this, so we can go get it over to the library. We know a librarian who might make that happen. So if you take that, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you all for the presentation. Thank you, Jennifer, for setting that up. And Paul for filling in for invocation. We appreciate that. A quick board meeting before you leave. Don't sneak out of here with that Imagine Rotary. Random acts of kindness, go get them.